Yes, I didn't say. What are you looking so sad about, Jack?
I'm surprised. I mean, I'm really insulted. That's not right, what you just said.
What do you mean, what I just said?
I mean, I'm getting a drink of water. I'm late getting home, but you talk. I said something about the greatest heavyweight champ, man. I'm a hometown man, and you talk about Joe Louis, man. Joe Louis wouldn't be nothing for me. Joe, I tell you, Joe, do you think you would have stood a chance with me?
Well, Clay, one time in my career, I bombed a bomb of my door.
I would have been a bum compared to you.
When you built the door.
What's happening, my people? It's Cass Sports again, back for another afternoon with the family. That's right. You know what time it is. If it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Boxtorian bringing you all that boxing history. Boxing is the greatest sport of them all. That's why we love it, can't get enough of it. Salute to everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cass Sports, the Boxtorian. Today, golden eras of boxing. Golden eras of boxing. Excuse me. How's everyone today? How's the family today? It's Wednesday. This is the Hump Day edition of Cass Sports, the Boxtorian. We're going to talk about some golden eras of boxing today, like the 1920s. That was the first big golden era. Boxing and horse racing were the two big popular sports back then. Boxing was even more popular than baseball. And Jack Dempsey was the one that made it so popular. He was one of the most well-known, not just athletes, people in the United States, okay? He was an actor, all of that. And we went on up to the 60s and 70s, late 60s into the 70s, the Ali era. Ali, Sonny Liston, Big George, Joe Frazier, Norton, all those guys made the 70s a golden era. And then they were worried, well, Ali was leaving. Who was going to take up the baton? because Larry Holmes was champion, and nothing against Larry, but Larry just wasn't charismatic like Ali. It was like going from a steak dinner to a pack of hot dogs, going from Ali to Larry Holmes. But the Four Kings came in right at the right time, took the baton from Ali and made the 80s popular. And then Mike Tyson came on then we went into the 90s. We had Holyfield, Bo Lewis, made the 90s. Big George came back, made the 90s golden era. And the 90s is about the last golden era. We're going to talk about now what would make this era a golden age in boxing. Got the potential talent and everything. But that's what we're going to talk about today. Golden ages of boxing. Okay? Those three of those great 70s heavyweights come left to right. Frazier, Foreman, Ali. All Olympic gold medalists. All heavyweight champions. Rivals in the ring, all fought each other. That's the problem now. We got the fighters, but we don't get the great matchups consistently enough for it to be a golden age, right? You need three things. You need the fighters, you need the great matchups, and the fan interest. And the first two things will equal the third. You got the fighters and you get the great matchups consistently. You're going to have the fan interest. But that's the thing missing nowadays is the great matchups consistently. So that's what hurts the fan interest, among other things. Okay, but first, we're going to have our fight of the day first, okay? Always dig that into the archives and come up with a classic fight and start the show with the fight of the day. And you hit two of those guys on the screen is in today's fight of the day. Okay, but how's everyone? It's Wednesday. Beautiful weather outside. We're from like single digits Monday to like up into the 50s today. Wow. Okay, but so now, without further ado, let's get on into our fight of the day today. Okay, for the fight of the day today, we have George Foreman versus Joe Frazier. January 22nd, 1973. Down goes Frazier. Okay, Big George Foreman versus Smoking Joe Frazier. January the 22nd, 1973. And down goes Frazier. Okay. Fight of the day today. Let's get into it. It was 52 years ago when a young, raw, and unbeaten heavyweight contender hailing from Marshall, Texas, challenged heavyweight king Joe Frazier. The fight, such as it was, took place in Kingston, Jamaica, and the 24-year-old Foreman was a 4-1 underdog against the 29-year-old who was now globally celebrated as Smoking Joe Frazier. Just Do Boxing in the building. What's up, Just Do? Coming up at 4 p.m. Fight of the day today is George Foreman versus Joe Frazier. Down goes Frazier. Salute Just Do Boxing. Okay, let's continue with the fight of the day. Yeah, Frazier was known globally as Smoking Joe. Frazier, seemingly at the peak of his powers, had reached the absolute top of the mountain 2 years earlier. This when the Philly Warrior had beaten and had temporarily silenced Muhammad Ali in the epic fight of the century. Frazier was now the undisputed, universally recognized heavyweight ruler of planet Earth. Foreman was, like Frazier and Ali before him, an Olympic gold medal winner. And the unbeaten slugger was perfect at 37 wins, no losses, 34 by knockout. But Big George had never met anyone quite like Frazier. Who had met somebody like Joe Frazier? Almost everyone coming into this fight felt Frazier, 29-0-25 knockouts, would have far too much of everything except size for Foreman. The only thing they were giving Foreman was the size advantage. Everything else they were giving to Frazier coming into the fight, okay? Shout out to Big George, one of the participants in today's Fight of the Day. But Foreman's physical dimensions played a big part in the fight, a huge part. Frazier, all 5'11" of him, and 5'11" is being generous for Frazier. But all 5'11" of Frazier became a sitting duck of the advancing variety against the 6'3" Foreman. As all those fans who watched the fight at the time surely will remember with clarity, Frazier was eaten up, as Ali might say, by Foreman's big bombs, right hands, uppercuts, followed by more right hands. Foreman erased his easy target of a defending champion, this by scoring no less than 6 knockdowns inside of 2 shocking rounds. Okay, 6 knockdowns in 2 rounds. He demolished Joe Frazier. Now, going into the fight, Foreman was, as he has said many times over the years, scared. My knees were literally shaking, Foreman said. Nobody could tell me any weaknesses about Joe Frazier because he didn't have any weaknesses. But styles make fights. And never has this timeless saying been proven so right as on January 22nd, 1973. Yeah, that styles make fights were on full display in this one. Okay. There's a shot of Smoking Joe. With this fight, a certain Don King became an emerging figure. It was for many people their first time seeing King's electric hair sticking up in the air. This as he sat beaming at ringside. Foreman Frazier is also remembered not just due to Foreman's freakish power and crushing win, but because it marked HBO's venture in the World Championship Boxing. Talk about a debut. Don King's first big promotion, HBO's first venture in the championship boxing, and George Foreman's first title win. What a historic fight that was. Wow. Mike Rem in the building. What's up, Mike? Fight of the day. Big George Foreman versus Smoking Joe Frazier. Down goes Frazier. Salute, Mike Rem. Okay, let's continue. Okay. Now, this fight came about because with Ali and Frazier unable at the time to come to an agreement for the hugely anticipated Super Fight 2, Frazier agreed to take on Foreman, and the Sunshine Showdown was on. Now, not everyone in Frazier's camp was happy with Foreman as far as a final choice as an ideal choice of an opponent. Far from it, in fact. And today, looking back, the taking of the fight does look like one enormous blunder on the part of Team Frazier. But hindsight is 20/20 vision. But at the time, there was no going back. The fight was on. Okay? It was on like popcorn. With no going back. And then Smoking Joe on one of his 6 trips to the canvas. To this day, fans of a certain age who watched the fight as called by Howard Cosell can still hear those 3 repeated words in their head. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. Cosell had called many fights, yet he seemed more shocked than anyone at the sight of Frazier being smashed to the canvas over and over and over. And as we know, after Howard made that first announcement of Frazier going to the mat, Joe would visit the canvas 5 more times before the most savagely one-sided world heavyweight title fight since Jack Dempsey, Jess Willard was finally stopped. Okay? 6 times in all. Foreman actually begged Frazier's corner to stop the fight. This due to a very real fear on the part of Big George that he might actually kill Frazier, because everybody knew Frazier was going to keep getting up. Finally, mercifully, referee Arthur McCante Sr., having seen Frazier literally lifted clean off his feet by a Foreman sledgehammer masquerading as a right hand, waved off the slaughter. Yeah, lift Joe up off of his feet by a sledgehammer masquerading as a right hand. Right? So Arthur McCante said, yeah, I got to stop this. And that was it. So Foreman was now the new king, and it seemed no one would ever be able to take the title from him. Not Ali, not Ken Norton, not Ron Lyle, not Jimmy Ellis, not Oscar Bonavena, not Jerry Query, not any of the top contenders of the day. Nobody. Foreman, who seemed like Frazier before him to have zero weaknesses, looked set for a long title reign. Things were, as we now know, thrown into a mesmerizing mixture of magic, intoxication, and a sense of justice when Muhammad Ali dropped and stopped Foreman in an even bigger upset than this one the following year. The crown that was unfairly taken from Ali in 1967 was now his again. But for now, after those 6 brutal knockdowns, Foreman was the master of the heavyweight division. And all these years later, now in 2025, the hammering Foreman gave Frazier still ranks as this particular Texas monster's most frightening, terrifying knockout performance of his career. There you have it, the fight of the day. Down goes Frazier. And there's your winner, Big George, Foreman. All right. So today we are going to be looking at golden eras in boxing, or golden ages, golden eras in boxing, like the 20s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. The 90s was really the last one because this era now kept the fighters potential to be a golden age, but the fighters need to fight each other more. Big names need to fight big names more consistently to have a golden age, okay? Champions can't fight once a year and all that type of stuff like they do now. Excuse me for one moment, please. Okay. But we are going to get into all of that today, okay? What it would take to make this era we're in right now in 2025 a golden age of boxing. Got the talent, but the main thing, we don't get the fights, not consistently. Like, we getting a nice one next month, Shakur and Teofimo. We need those type of matchups throughout the year. That's how they did in the golden ages. You would have fights like that every month, you know? Top level, a Shakur Teofimo type fight every month back in the old days. That's what made those golden ages of boxing. You might get top level fights like that now 3 times a year. That's not enough to make it a golden age. But okay, first off, what is a golden age? Okay, let's look at that. What is a golden era anyway? Let's do that first. What is a golden era? A golden era in boxing refers to periods, most notably the 1920s and the 1960s, 70s heavyweight division, characterized by immense popularity, huge stars, iconic rivalries, deep talent pools across weight classes, major cultural impact, and high viewership, making boxing a dominant global sport. A golden age signifies a peak where legends emerged and the sport captivated mainstream audiences throughout thrilling fights and compelling personalities, often driven by radio and later TV. Okay? Iconic fighters like Jack Dempsey in the 1920s, or Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, and George Foreman in the 1970s became global celebrities. Many great fighters across multiple divisions, not just heavyweights, competed simultaneously, like the 1960s to the 90s. Talent influx. Boxing became a major spectator sport, a cultural phenomenon, and a reflection of societal issues such as World War II era politics. Legendary matchups like the Ali Frazier trilogy drew massive audiences and defined generations. Radio and television broadcasts brought fights into homes, expanding the sport's reach and creating huge events like the first $1 Million Gate back in 1921. Now, here are some commonly cited golden eras, okay? The 1920s. The first mainstream boom with legalized boxing, stars like Jack Dempsey, and massive events. The 1960s and 70s, heavyweights. The undisputed golden age for heavyweights, featuring Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, George Foreman, Sonny Liston, Ken Norton, and many Hall of Famers fighting each other. And we also had the smaller weight classes too, other than heavyweight. Bruce Gass, Boxing Jazz, and more. Salute, Bruce Gass. Golden ages of boxing today. Salute. Okay. And then the 1990s. Another stacked era with Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, and Riddick Bowe, bringing power and technique. And then, like some of the other weight classes, not just heavyweight in the 90s, we had stars like Bernard Hopkins, James Toney, Roy Jones Jr., Oscar De La Hoya, Julio Cesar Chavez, Pernell Whitaker, Hector Camacho, Floyd Mayweather Jr., and the British stars, Chris Eubank, Nigel Benn, and Steve Collins. And these fighters, what made it golden ages, they consistently were fighting each other, you know? Right. Champions didn't fight once a year and things of that nature. So, you know, that's what made them golden ages. But now let's look at two guys' take on these golden ages, okay? Yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff here. There's Jack Dempsey. He was like in the first golden age back in the 20s. You know, first he was part of the first $1 Million Gate in boxing and the first $2 million gate in boxing. Okay. Jack Dempsey was really the first big star. Okay. He was when boxing was just right up there with horse racing as far as popularity. They were the most popular sports going out there. And Jack Dempsey was the most well-known athlete in the United States, bigger than Babe Ruth and all of them guys. Red Grange, football, Bobby Jones, golf. Yeah. Jack Dempsey was the first big star in boxing. Okay, so let's talk about, will there ever be another golden era as far as boxing goes, okay? Oh, shoot, I went right past it. There we go. Will there be another true golden era of boxing? Okay, let's talk about that for a little while. Okay, now, the thing with golden eras is that you don't always know they're happening until they're over, okay? Like the 1990s. People didn't really think at the time that the 90s were a golden era for heavyweights. In fact, at the time, a lot of people were frustrated that Riddick Bowe and Lennox Lewis never fought. And Lennox Lewis and Evander Holyfield was a couple of years too late. But when Lewis retired and Mike Tyson and Holyfield and Bo faded away, people realized that they just seen a great era, okay, after it was over. Now, for a golden era, like I was saying at the top of the show, you need three things. The first thing, you need great fighters and a supporting cast of very good fighters. And the most important thing you need great matchups, okay? What's up, Al Booger in the building? Al Booger says, Zuffer bringing in the golden era. Salute, Al Booger. But yeah, you need great fighters and you need a supporting cast of very good fighters. And the most important thing, you need the great matchups. And the third thing is the fan interest. But the first two steps will equal the third step. If the great fighters give you great matchups consistently, the fan interest will come automatically. So this era, let's talk about this era. Okay. Now we got some potentially great fighters right now, you know? Say potential because greatness can really only be properly assessed towards the end of a career. You know, when you see what you've done in your career, who you fought, who you beaten, that type of thing, you know. Now, where boxing often struggles nowadays is with great matchups, right? And like I was saying, because of the great matchups not being consistent, that lowers the fan interest. Now, for example, now like lightweight right now, 135, 140, 147, those three divisions have some great talent in them. And you know, a lot of these fighters had the opportunity to fight each other. Eventually, we got fighters like Devin Haney. Okay, here we go. Devin Haney, Gervonta Davis, Shakur Stevenson, Ryan Garcia, Teofimo Stevenson, Subriel Matias, Gary Anton Russell. You know, all these fighters right in that group, 135, 140, 147. And close enough in weight to fight each other, right? And for a golden age, we have to see all these fighters fight each other on a consistent basis. Now, we've seen a few decent matchups between them, but not enough to make it a golden age, right? Just like 154 going on up. If all these great fighters fight each other on a regular basis, it probably would turn into a golden age, right? They have to fight more and fight against each other. And the public fan interest will come, right? The interest will come. And then another problem with this era, someone's O has to go, right? Someone's O has to go. Now the pressure to stay unbeaten makes it harder to make big fights. And we can't just put all the blame on the fighters and the promoters. Us fans have to take our part of the blame too, because we are bought into the narrative. I've heard people say on social media, fighters like Muhammad Ali and Sugar Ray Robinson get dismissed because they had so many losses, right? Fans ignored their success in rematches. Muhammad Ali never lost a rematch. Every loss he had, except for those last two, the Holmes and Berbick, he avenged, right? And fans ignore the fact that they fought way beyond their primes. Like Ali, those last two losses, they shouldn't even count. The man was suffering from Parkinson's, had no business still in the ring, right? And fans also ignore the number of great fighters they actually beat, not just the ones they lost to, the great fighters they actually beat. So if we as fans buying into that narrative of the O being so important, then it makes sense for fighters and promoters to delay big fights, which would risk that unbeaten O, okay? Because they listen to what the fans talking about. And if the fans buy into that O, it makes perfect sense for the fighters and promoters to delay big fights, which risk that unbeaten record, right? For as long as possible. Okay, for as long as possible. Many of the great fighters in the old days had a few losses before they even won a world title, because they fought good fighters on the way up, okay? Where nowadays, that would be considered too big a risk to future earning potential, right? Like you're not going to see two top-level prospects fight nowadays. They got to keep that at least till they get up to contender status. Whereas in the golden eras, fighters had 2 or 3 losses before they even fought for a world title. That won't happen now. Most times you see fighters in the title fights 25-0 against 23-0. Fighters will not risk that O on the way up there. It's too big of a risk to future earning potential. Okay? Damage versus activity. Yeah, Al Booker, we got to take our blame in this, that O narrative, because the fans do have something to do with that. We have bought into that, you know. Now, damage versus activity. Okay. That's Muhammad Ali and Cleveland Williams. He predicted ready to fight. Now, in 1966, the world heavyweight champion defended his title 5 times. That was Muhammad Ali, right? Nowadays, world heavyweight, any kind of, most champions fight once a year, if that, right? Once a year. Now, we all know boxing is dangerous. And accumulated damage is probably the biggest danger, right? So we'll never see the return to the days when boxers fought every month or two. But when the top guys only fight once or twice a year, we're less likely to see the best matchups. And that makes it harder to generate public interest. Terence Crawford, the pound for pound king right now. He's a great fighter. But when the last time he fought more than once in a year? Can anybody remember? The last time Crawford fought once in a year? Okay. So how is he going to build a following like that? You know? How is he going to be a part of a golden age? No way. You're not fighting enough. Okay? And how is he going to fight many of the top guys in around his weight class? If he only fight once a year, he damn near 40. Fighting once a year don't give him time to make all the big fights that the fans want to see him in. But boxing's problems aren't all new, okay? They aren't all new problems. They've been going on for a while. These problems aren't all new ones, okay? Far from it. Very far from it. Everybody hit the like, please. Thank you. Appreciate it. Now, sometimes we miss out on golden eras by a whisker. Come very close to it. Now, between Roy Jones Jr., James Toney, Michael Nunn, Bernard Hopkins, Nigel Benn, etc., the 1990s should have been a golden age for middle and super middleweights, not just the heavyweights. You know, Lewis, Tyson, Holyfield, Bo. Middleweight and super middleweight had the talent to be a golden age. Some people actually feel it was. But for the fans, at least, we miss out on too many big fights and rivalries, okay? Roy Jones moved up to light heavyweight and took easy fights, leaving all the good fights at middleweight and super middleweight behind. Him and James Toney never fought. We talked about that yesterday. B-Hop stayed at middleweight too long and wouldn't move up. Sorry, Tony. While Tony ate his way out of contention. Right? So we didn't get all the fights we should have. Super middleweight and middleweight could have been a golden age for those divisions in the 90s, but we just didn't get the fights. Remember the 3 things? Great fighters, great matchups, equals fan interest. So that's what kept that from being a golden age, but came close. Now, there were some great fights and great fighters in the 90s, in the lower classes, other than heavyweight. But we missed out on more great fights than we actually got, than the great fights we got, okay? Now, like I said, some of boxing's problems aren't new, but some of them are new. You know, some of these problems and situations just started nowadays, okay? Now, of course, boxing isn't as big a sport as it once was. It isn't dead and it isn't dying, but it doesn't hold center stage as it once did. And that's unlikely to change. Boxing used to be mainstream, okay? Generations of families used to sit together and watch boxing. You know, people used to be at a parties with many people in the house, and somebody would turn boxing on the TV. Not only did no one complain, most people would sit down and start watching it, right? Those type of days are gone. Now, the reasons for boxing's decline are much discussed, and we're not going to go into that too deeply, all of those arguments. But it's fair to say that boxing is likely to remain a popular but niche sport for the foreseeable future. Okay? Now, that doesn't affect the quality of the boxing on offer, but it does alter public perception. It's harder to create a golden age when most people don't have a clue who the champions are, right? When you all these different titles going on nowadays, how are you going to create a golden age? Many fans don't even know who the champion of what is. Now, part of the reason the 70s was a golden age of heavyweights is everyone knew all the top fighters, okay? And the guy who came out on the very top was the biggest sports star in the world, not just boxing, Muhammad Ali. One of the biggest, most well-known people in the world. Sports, politics, entertainment, yeah. That's what made the 70s so great. Everybody knew the champions, who all the top fighters were, and the guy who came on top was one of the biggest sports stars in the world, one of the most well-known people in the world. And then, when the 80s ended, the Four Kings came in right on time. The Four Kings were household names, right? Leonard, Hagler, Duran, Hearns, household names. Mike Masick in the building. What's up, Mike? Golden eras today. We just having a little discussion about the eras that were golden eras and what the problem is nowadays, you know. But yeah, the 70s and 80s, all those fighters were household names, especially the Four Kings. And they came right along, right on time. And then Mike Tyson came right after the Four Kings. And almost 40 years after Mike Tyson's prime, he is still known all over the world. That's how popular he was, right? So we'll probably see more golden ages in boxing. It's just that no one outside of hardcore boxing fans will even notice. Okay? Now let's look at another guy's take on this thing, the golden ages, okay? Yeah, because there's so many belts and so much going on there in boxing. If we have another golden age, only the casual fans won't even notice, you know? It's hard for them to even know who the champions are. You can have 200 champions at any given time with the interims and the champions in recess and the regulars and the super champions and continental champions and all that type of stuff, man. So it's just too much going on. Okay, let's look at this. This is pretty good here. Let me find this one. Okay. Okay. But how's everybody? It's hump day. Heading for 2026. Now, like I was saying, we're getting a big fight, Shakur and Teofimo. But to be a golden age, we need top level fights like that every month throughout the year, not 3 or 4 times a year. We need big names like that fighting each other every month or 2 times a month, you know? That's what makes a golden age. Okay. We might not give another big top level fight like that until next summer, summertime. Now, this guy says there will never be another golden age of boxing. At least not as we view a golden age. Now, for most, the golden era was from the early 1960s to to the end of the Tyson Lewis Holyfield era. Yeah, I agree with that. The golden era ended in the 90s, 70s, 60s to the 90s, into the Tyson Lewis Holyfield Bowl era was when it ended. Okay. Yeah, for the most part, the golden era was from the early to middle 1960s to the end of the Tyson Lewis Holyfield era. For most, that age began with Joe Louis. Now, one could argue that it started around, but then we had a gap in between them. But you can argue that it started with Jack Dempsey himself. After all, Jack Dempsey was the first fighter to raise boxing to the $1 million gate. He was in the first $1 million gate fight and the first $2 million gate fight, Jack Dempsey. That went through Joe Louis, early Sugar Ray, and then had a break. And then the next golden age was like in the middle to late 60s. Okay. Now, anyone who doubts that Muhammad Ali's career and that of his contemporaries does not engulf a huge part of the golden era isn't worth talking boxing with. Anybody who tell you the late 60s through the 70s wasn't a golden age, they're not even worth talking boxing with, because they don't have any idea what they're talking about, right? Now, the reason we will never see anything like the Ali era again is GREED, greed, okay? Greed. That's what kills golden eras and keeps boxing from growing. Greed. Now, greed is a mental illness. History shows us that people in power never willingly give up even a portion of such power unless forced to, right? Look at the current state of this violent country we live in, for those of us who live in the United States. And we're supposed to be the greatest country in the world. But the only ones who believe that are those who have never been in another country, okay? Anybody who thinks the United States right now is the greatest country in the world haven't been in another country, because there's some much greater right now. Now, Don King and Bob Arum are heavily blamed for the current state of boxing. But one could argue that it did not start with them. The 1950s was heavily mob controlled. Don King and Bob Arum simply took the corruption to another level. They didn't start it, they just took it to another level. And they are not the only culprits. They might not even be the primary culprits. The WBC and WBA, particularly their former presidents, WBC former president Jose Sulaiman and Gilberto Mendoza of the WBA. Is he still a president of them? Gilberto Mendoza, WBA, are at least equally or more responsible than Don King and Bob Arum for the corruption in boxing right now. And then former president of the IBF, Bob Lee. This man went to prison for fraud, money laundering, paying off sanctioning bodies. Promoters had to pay him for favorable rankings in the IBF. Him and his son went to prison, and other members of the IBF. And then Ramon Pena Acevedo, WBO. All these sanctioning body presidents have a huge role in the corruption in boxing, right? And that is only part of the problem, the sanctioning bodies. Now, the bigger problem is that all of these men, presidents of these sanctioning bodies, were greedy. And none of them were willing to agree to any set of rules that would be fair to the fighters and overall beneficial to the sport. All they was worrying about was making more money. Any kind of rules that was put in front of them to make the sport better, they didn't care about that. It's the same way now. All they care about is making money. Remember, the WBC was started by adding another weight class, bridgerweight. Did they do it? I haven't heard anything about it. But remember, what do we need another weight class for? But all these people are worrying about is money, greed. They're not worrying about anything beneficial to the sport of boxing. It's just like stealing or gambling. The worst thing that can happen to a thief or a gambler, or anyone who practices any number of human activities that people know they shouldn't do. The worst thing that happened to a thief is that the thieves get away with stealing, and the worst thing that happened to a gambler is he wins. It's only human nature. that if the thief is successful at stealing and the gambler wins, do it again and again and again, right? If a man knows that he's doing something wrong, but is never held accountable, he will keep doing it until he is stopped. Until he's either stopped or he destroys the entity in which he is involved. And that's what the sanctioning bodies are doing. Okay? They will keep up this greed until they are stopped or until they destroy boxing. Like the state they got it to now, right? They won't stop with the greed until they destroy the sport. Boxing is becoming a joke. Okay? It's becoming a joke. Now, some of the fighters have been able to take control of their careers as well. And to a degree, you could make an argument that this is rightfully so. But that creates yet another problem. Because now, when the boxers start taking control of their careers, they become power hungry. Okay? They become power hungry. Now, Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, Oscar De La Hoya, and Floyd Mayweather Jr. have each held the distinction of being boxing's cash cow, right? And any other boxer who wanted to make some money in the sport had to fight them, right? And this is not their fault. The system was put into place well before any of them came along. And the public supported these fighters because they excelled in the sport. And each of these great fighters took their brand to a higher level. And to Ali's credit, he fought everybody, okay? Ali fought everybody. Didn't duck anyone. Sugar Ray Leonard learned from Ali's mistakes in business. And so Sugar Ray trusted virtually no one, by his own admission. And Sugar Ray also did a bit more cherry picking than Ali, as they call it, right? But to Sugar Ray's credit, he also fought the biggest name for the most money. And he received the lion's share, rightfully so, okay? But like he fought Hagler at an advantageous time. The second Duran fight, he got the immediate rematch because Duran was out there partying, not in shape. So yeah, Sugar Ray was smart businessman. Now Oscar took it to yet another level. He emulated Sugar Ray's success, but Oscar brought it to a broader audience. Oscar was a bridge between Latin America and mainstream America. Oscar fought to gain the respect of diehard Mexican fans. Like him or not, Oscar fought damn near everybody, right? And some people would argue that. I've heard this. They argue that Oscar didn't fight Winky Wright and Vernon Forrest. But guess what? That argument is weak because at any given time, Oscar could have faced Winky Wright or Vernon Forrest. There was always a bigger name that he was in the ring with. So he didn't duck him. He was just for the bigger name. That's all. Now let's go back to Muhammad Ali for a minute. Let's go back to Ali for a minute. Now, what's up, Crush? Salute. Crush the legend is in the building. The morning show. 6 a.m. Monday through Friday. Salute, Crush. Yeah, we talking about the golden eras, Crush, and this greed and stuff going on in boxing, these sanctioning bodies. And they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop till they stop or until they destroy the sport. Okay? Any kind of thing put in front of these sanctioning bodies that's beneficial to boxing, they're not going to do it. Okay? Now let's go back to Ali for a minute now. Now, Ken Norton clearly deserved the shot at Leon Spinks after he beat Ali, right? But, Norton was the number one contender. But who do you think? You can't blame Spinks. Who was the better business move as far as the money? Ali rematch after you had just beat him as a 7-fight novice or Ken Norton? No brainer. He fought Ken Norton. That was just business. Okay? Now, for Floyd Mayweather Jr., now Floyd took the game to yet another level. The difference with Floyd is that Floyd wasn't as trusting or daring as Ali. Floyd wasn't as absent as Sugar Ray Leonard. Floyd wasn't as risky as Oscar. So one could argue that Floyd made the most money with the least risk. Therein lies the problem, right? Now, you can't blame Floyd. He made the most money with the least risk, but therein lies the problem. All the boxers that come along after Floyd seeks to emulate what he did, okay? As a result, big fights are missed. Now, we have some, but not often enough to be a golden era, okay? Like I was saying, we got the big Shakur Teofimo matchup. You need matchups like that once or twice a month throughout the year to be a golden era, okay? Now, we had the four big heavyweights. We had Tyson, Tyson, Fury, Wilder, Joshua, Usyk, and they pretty much, Fury fought Wilder 3 times, he fought Usyk twice, Joshua fought Usyk twice, so they pretty much fought, okay. But it could have been more fights between the two now. But yeah, Usyk, you got to give him his credit for beating Joshua and Fury, and he deserved that 4th spot. The point is that we could have seen much more in the time that boxing has been held up at the negotiating tables, though, okay? A lot of fights get held up at the negotiating tables. Boxing has become more business than it's necessary, and that is not necessarily a bad thing. Look at the college football situation, but it is not necessarily a good thing either, because the top fighters do not have to face each other if the money isn't right, okay? No more golden age. Greed is an illness, and no one willingly gives up even a portion of power. And anyone in a position to force any surrender of power won't do so, because they also benefit from the pimping of boxing, okay? Boxing has become a microcosm of America itself. 1% of the people has 95% of the wealth, okay? That's boxing for you. Okay, so let's look at the golden age now. The 70s. Greatest era of heavyweight boxers ever. The 1970s, okay? What was the best era of heavyweight boxing? Okay, and we got something on. We're gonna go back and take a look at Rocky Marciano too. But what was the best era of heavyweight boxing? Late 60s, 70s? Was that it? Let's talk about that. And like I was saying, we got the fighters nowadays to be a golden age. They just got to fight each other more consistently. And in a little while, we're going to look at the best fighter right now in every weight class, okay? We're going to do that in a little while. The best fighter in every weight class coming up in a little while. Now, that's subjective, okay? That's just what I think. But y'all probably agree with a few of them. Like Usyk at heavyweight. Bam at 115, I got Nakatani at 118 because I know his next fight is at 122, but his last fight was at 118, so I go by where the last fight was at, right? Now, what was the best era of heavyweight boxing? Okay, now if you believe the experts, the boxers, the trainers, the sports writers, boxing historians, the two greatest eras of boxing were the golden age in the 70s and 20 years later, the heavyweights. The two greatest eras were the golden age of the 70s and 20 years later, the era of Lennox Lewis, Evander Holyfield, Riddick Bowe, and Mike Tyson. Okay. Now, the current era we're in now is generally considered the worst in boxing history. before one single boxing expert, not fighters, not trainers, not writers, not boxing historians, considering it anything other than the worst in history. For anyone who knows anything about boxing, the legacy of the 1990s greats, Tyson, Lewis, Holyfield, and Bowe, is a great era, second only to the golden age of the 1970s. Why? More top 100 of all time world-class, highly skilled heavyweights were active during the golden age of the 70s than at any other period in boxing history. Okay? Say that again. More top 100 of all time heavyweights, world-class, highly skilled heavyweights, were active during the golden age of the 1970s than at any other period in boxing history. And that's facts, okay? That's not subjective. That's a fact right there. Names like Ali, Liston, Frazier, Foreman, Norton, Patterson, Query, Lau, Shavers, Bugner, Ellis, Young, Holmes, Spinks, Patterson, and Bonavina are known throughout the world. Well, were known at that time throughout the world. You can't go to any other era and find that many names in one division that were that were more well known. In the 70s, everybody knew all those names. Okay, that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 heavyweights were household names, all of them. I bet you Mike Rim in the 70s knew every one of those names. Anybody that was around and watching boxing knew all 16 of those names were household names. You can't name 16 heavyweights now that are household names. Can't do it. Okay? More Hall of Famers are from the golden age. More top competition and more wins against top competition than from any other era. Talking heavyweights, okay? With the age of Lennox Lewis, Riddick Bowe, Holyfield running a close second. Now, the Depression era, Jack Dempsey and all those guys, is third, right? And again, the current era, 2025, is dead last. Okay, I mean, I'm not beating on this era, it's just a fact. That's a good point, Al Booker. The Klitschko era, worse than this era. Wilder, Fury, yeah. That's a good point, Al Booker. You can make a very good argument for that. The Klitschko era, yeah. That was one of the worst too. Very good point, Al Booker. You can make a very good argument for that. Yeah, the Klitschko era. That is a very good point right there. Okay. Now the Depression era is third, back Jack Dempsey and Georges Carpenter, all of them. Right after Jack Johnson and Jess Willett. Right after their era. Well, they might be included in that because they were close. But the Depression era is third. Okay. Now, Tyson Fury, one of the best heavyweights today, had this to say about fighting a peak Mike Tyson. Tyson Fury said it would be no contest if he fought Iron Mike in his prime. Tyson Fury said, I think Mike Tyson would have knocked me out in 30 seconds. At least he's honest. The reporter asked incredulously, was he serious? Fury said, yeah. He said, Mike Tyson would have knocked me out in 30 seconds. Wow. So the golden age of the 70s is the best age. First, we have to define the golden age as being from 1964, when Ali first won the title from Liston, to 1978, when Larry Holmes took over. Okay. And the age of Lennox Lewis, Riddick Bowe, and all of them, Holyfield, was from 1985, when Tyson won his first title, to 2000. Okay. Now, the Klitschko's are not counted, the one Al Booker was talking about. The Klitschko's are not counted in the age of Tyson, Lewis, and Holyfield because they are considered to have their own era, the Klitschko brothers era, from 2000 to 2015. Yeah, and like Al Booker said, that's could be the worst. It's running a very close second to now, in my vote. And if you say the Klitschko era is the worst, I ain't mad at you at all because it's very close, right? I ain't mad at you at all. Now, playing on numbers tell the tale. Twice as many Golden Age heavyweights are in the Hall of Fame as any other era, okay? The numbers tell the tale. Twice as many heavyweights from the Golden Age of the 70s are in the Hall of Fame than any other era. 10 of them are in the Hall of Fame, okay? 5 from the Lewis, Holyfield, Tyson, Bowe era are already in the Hall, okay? There's no fighter in history more legendary than Muhammad Ali, and no more legendary age than the Golden Age. That takes nothing from Lennox Lewis, Tyson, Holyfield, and Riddick Bowe of that age. But as Tyson himself said, nobody beats Ali. So let's start right there with Ali. Boxing historian Monty Cox wrote that Muhammad Ali was the most naturally gifted heavyweight champion in history. Now, the most amazing thing about Ali I said was he was in 11 rematches in his career, 11-0, okay? 11-0. Now, I found out that Joe Louis was in I think it was 10 rematches. He was 10-0. So Ali and Joe Louis never lost a rematch. That's impressive right there. Okay, never lost a rematch. They both had great trainers too. That had a lot to do with it. Joe Louis had Jack Black, but Ali had Angelo Dundee. That had a lot to do with not losing a rematch, having those great trainers, making them adjustments and stuff, right? Okay, so after Ali, you have supremely talented Larry Holmes, George Foreman, Ken Norton, Floyd Patterson, Sonny Liston, all in the Hall of Fame, plus 4 more. All of them in the Hall of Fame, okay? BBC boxing writer and historian Ben Durs set up the Golden Age. Ali reigned in the most talent-rich era of heavyweight boxing, winning the title from the fearsome Sonny Liston in 1964, winning it again from the even more fearsome George Foreman 10 years later, and beating greats such as Floyd Patterson, Joe Frazier, and Ken Norton in between, okay? From 1970, when Ali came back from his forced exile in 1978, when Ali won back his crown for the final time against Spinks, Ali shared the very top shelf with Joe Frazier and George Foreman. And the 3 of them were supported by Ken Norton and Joe Bubner. At the end of the decade, and in the beginning of the decade, it was supported by Oscar Bonavena, Jerry Quarry, and Jimmy Ellis. And also during the decade, he had Ernie Shavers, Ron Lyle, and Jimmy Young. Ali fought all of them. And most of them fought each other. The greatest heavyweight era ever. That's what makes the Golden Age. All these great fighters have to fight each other, okay? That's what makes the Golden Era. You got the greats fighting each other. If you consider the day Ali dethroned the most feared boxing champion ever, Sonny Liston, he dominated his sport for 14 years. No one else ever did that before or since. 14 years. And 3 of them he was suspended, okay? And he came back and he had to find another way to win, and he did it and still dominated, okay? Still dominated. Now, Lennox Lewis deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, first among equals in this generation of fighters, along with Tyson, Bowe, and Holyfield. Emanuel Stewart said Lennox Lewis is the best heavyweight since Ali, and the world should now acknowledge that. Okay, so there's no shame in the 1990s being the second greatest heavyweight era ever, okay, to the 70s. Okay, so now back to this era. Now, like I said, this era has the potential to be a golden age, right? But just got to get the fighters The three things that make a golden age, again, are great fighters, great matchups, and fan interest. And the first two will automatically bring the third. Great fighters fighting each other on a consistent basis, making the great matchups, will bring the fan interest, okay? This era has the first ingredient, great fighters, but they don't have the last two. The great matchups or the fan interest, like it should be. Okay, let's look at we're gonna look at the best fighter in each weight class nowadays. Show you how this fighter has the talent to be a golden age. If these guys would fight each other consistently, they definitely this era definitely has the talent to be a golden age. Ain't no doubt about it. About a doubt it. Or something like that. It's about a doubt it or doubt about it. Here's a list of fighters of the year for the entire 1970s. Okay. Entire 1970s. Okay. 1970 was Joe Frazier. 1971 was Joe Frazier. 72 was Muhammad Ali and Muhammad Ali. 73 was George Foreman. 74 was Muhammad Ali. 75 was Muhammad Ali. He did a back-to-back on us. 76 was George Foreman again. Oh man. 77. That's I can't think of that's I can't think of his name. He was a lower weight. 78 was Ali again, and 79 was Sugar Ray Leonard. Ali got the record for fighters of the year. He has 6 of them. 77. I gotta find out who that is. I can't think of his name. But I'm gonna find out. What year is it? 1977. Right. Yeah, we gotta know. Got this thing called Google. Will tell me as fast as I can type it in. And that's Ring Magazine. That's the big one. Ring Magazine started it in 1928. They started Fighter of the Year in 1922. I don't know why they waited 6 years to do Fighter of the Year. Every year except for that year was heavyweights in the 70s. Okay? All those great years, Roberto the Redhead as a lightweight, he never won Fighter of the Year as a lightweight. I don't think he won Fighter of the Year. Wow. But, you know, the 70s was the era of the heavyweight. Carlos Zarate, I should have knew that. Yeah, that's Carlos. That's Carlos Zarate, 1977. The only one in the 70s that wasn't a heavyweight to win Fighter of the Year out of all those years. I think 72 might have been co-fighter of the year too. I think it was Ali and somebody else. Yeah, I think he had a co-fighter of the year. 72 was Ali and Carlos Monzon. Yeah, that's Carlos Monzon in the with Ali. They were co-fighters of the year in 1972. Okay. Yep. Okay, so now let's look at these fighters now. I'm going to show you that nowadays we had the fighters to be a golden age, but they just not fighting each other consistently enough to make a golden age. We're going to look at the best fighter in every weight division. Now, starting at heavyweight, going on down to 105, strawweight. Okay, of course, heavyweight is I know I put him at lightweight. We're not starting with lightweight though. We start with heavyweight. It's Usyk, but I can't find the picture. I believe that's Usyk right there. Yeah, Usyk is the representative for heavyweight. Alexander Usyk. Been a little discussion about him, brief. Let me move on to the next one, okay? But this is the best fighter now in each weight class. Alexander Usyk at heavyweight. Bear with me for one moment, please. Usyk, former undisputed heavyweight champion. Y'all know the story. Beat Fury twice, Joshua twice. Oh, I can't get this to work right. Current heavyweight champion, Alexander Usyk. Okay, this is subjective. Okay, this is just my list of them. This is not necessarily who the best is, right? Yeah, but anyway, Usyk is it for heavyweight. Okay, he's a Ukrainian fighter. Okay, Usyk is. He held the Unified Heavyweight Championship since 2025 and the Ring Magazine title since 2022. He held the Undisputed Championship in 2 weight classes, cruiserweight and heavyweight, and is the first male boxer to become a 3-time Undisputed Champion in the 4-belt era. He did it twice at heavyweight and once at cruiserweight. Now, Bud did it in first male in 3 different weight classes, but Usyk did 3 times before Bud because he got heavyweight twice. He got it the second time in 25 when he beat Dubois before Bud beat Canelo. So Usyk is the first 3-time male champion at the heavyweight, 3-time champion in the 4-belt era for a male. The GOAT is the first one overall. Bud is in the first 3 division. Okay. At cruiserweight is Jai Opetaia. Jai Opetaia. Okay. And Usyk is currently we don't need no record, okay? But he's 24-0 with 15 knockouts. Okay, cruiserweight is Jai Opetaia. Okay. Best fighter in every weight class currently in boxing. Jai is the cruiserweight representative. Now he's an undefeated Australian boxer. Jai is, right? Southpaw from South Wales, 79% knockout rate. And boxing runs in Jai's family. Both his grandfathers and his father were boxers. And they had the IBF title from 2022 to 2023, but vacated it due to disagreements with the organization. Then he regained the title by unanimous decision in Saudi Arabia. Jai Opetaia at cruiserweight. He's going to be the best fighter in each weight class. Okay. And Jai is currently 29-0 with 23 knockouts. 29-0, 23 knockouts for Jai. I told you 79% knockout rate, didn't I? Yeah, okay. Okay, light heavyweight, Dmitry Bivol. Here he is fighting Beterbiev. This is subjective, right? Okay. Yeah, Dmitry Bivol at light heavyweight. Best fighter at light heavyweight currently. Russian boxer. Dmitry is. Okay. and reigning undisputed light heavyweight champion. 34 years old, 72-inch reach. He won the WBA light heavyweight title in May 2022 with a unanimous decision win over 40 division world champion Canelo Alvarez. In February 2025, he defeated Artur Beterbiev to become the undisputed champion and held the unified championship since April of this year. Bivol. Okay? And currently, his record is 24 wins, 1 loss, 12 by knockout. Okay, next is super middleweight. So this is Terence Crawford. He beat Canelo, so Terence Crawford is the best super middleweight in the world right now. Terence Crawford. Okay, Terence Allen Crawford. Oh, there we go. Okay, American former, he's an American boxer. Okay, is he retired? I know he's undefeated. It says Terence Crawford is a former boxer retired in 2025. Anybody know anything about that? He was the second ever first male 3-weight undisputed world champion in the 4-bout era. Okay. And the second 3-time after Alexander Usyk. Okay. And Bud is currently, it says Terence Crawford is retired. 42-0, right, with 31 knockouts. 42-0 with 31 knockouts. Terence Crawford, super middleweight. Okay, middleweight, Erislandy Lara. Erislandy Lara at middleweight. And then we got a little something on Rocky Marciano after this. A nice little story about The Rock. Erislandy Lara is the best middleweight in the world right now. Subjective. Oh, he made it yesterday? I did not know that, Al Booker. And they got it in here already. Yeah, they got retired 2008 to 2025. Wow. Boy, this Wikipedia is up to date, man. He just announced it yesterday. Man. Thank you, Al Booker. I did not know that. Wow. So Bud hung him up. Hey, I ain't mad at him. There's not nothing else he can do. His legacy is set. He'd give him Hall of Fame just off what he did, in the Canelo fight. And 3-time undisputed. First man to do that, yeah. Now, Lara is a Cuban pro boxer, okay? And Lara has held multiple world championships in 2 weight classes, including the WBA middleweight title since 2023, okay? Currently has the WBA middleweight. And Lara is 38 wins, 32 wins, 3 losses, 19 knockouts, 3 draws for Lara. Junior middleweight is Sebastian Fundora, the Towering Inferno, is junior middleweight. Best junior middleweight in the world right now. Once Boots get a title, I give it to him. But yeah, he hasn't fought enough yet in the class. But yeah, he will be soon on my list. once he get a title, it'll be Boots. But right now, Fundora, okay? Also known as the Towering Inferno, current WBC and WBO junior middleweight champion from Coachella, California. He won his titles in March 2024. Upset split decision victory over Tim Tszyu. Remember that one? The bloodbath. That's what they call that. The bloodbath. That was terrible. Both of them was bleeding badly. And currently, Sebastian is 23 wins, 1 loss, 14 knockouts. Okay? I can't remember who beat Sebastian. 1 loss. Let's see. Yeah, yeah. Brian Mendoza, that's right. Mendoza sparked him out. Remember Timber, the Tower Inferno crashed. Yeah. 147, y'all be surprised on this one. Eimantas Stanionis, 147. Eimantas Stanionis. I know nobody agrees with that but me. But Stanionis is only been beat once by Boots, remember? And he was a champion coming into that. Eimantas Stanionis, 147, welterweight. He's a Lithuanian boxer. He had the WBO title from 22 to 25 before he lost it to Jaron Bucetis. As an amateur, Stanionis won a welterweight gold medal at the 2015 European Championships. He's a former mixed martial artist before boxing. Stanionis was, okay? Yep, at welterweight, that's our representative, Eimantas Stanionis. Currently, only has 1 loss to Boots, remember. He's 16-1 with 9 knockouts, 1 no contest. Okay, junior welterweight. My best junior welterweight is Gary Antoine Russell. Okay, I haven't even been changing them. Damn. There's Lara, Fundora. Made these pictures might as well show them. Stanionis at welterweight, and now we're at Gary Antoine at 140. Yeah, I got Gary Antoine at 140 for the best 140 pounder right now. Okay. It'll be hard to beat that young man down there, man. He got the Japanese guy coming up, right? The one that beat my buddy, the old guy. We went to school together. Me and Barry. What's his name? Barroso. We the same age. I made that part up, but we are the same age, me and Barroso. Okay. Now, Gary Antoine, American boxer from Capitol Heights, Maryland. He had the WBO. He has the WBO super lightweight title. He took it from Rayo earlier this year, remember? And he was on the 2016 Olympic team, junior welterweight, in Rio de Janeiro. He didn't medal. He made it to the 3rd round. Okay. Antoine is currently okay, yeah, that's Gary up there. He's currently 18 wins, 1 loss, with 17 by knockout. Okay, he has a hellacious knockout ratio. With a knockout, Gary Antoine knockout ratio is 94.4. He gets some about it. Only one man's went the distance with him in his career. Lightweight. Y'all know who I got at lightweight. Is he retired too? I don't know. Gervonta Tank Davis at lightweight. He ain't officially retired, I don't think. How did he put him on? Oh, there he is right there. Gervonta Davis at lightweight. Okay? These are the best fighters in each division currently. Let me finish this up because I want to get to Rocky. That's good. Rocky Marciano. Gervonta Davis. That's 135 pounder in the world right now. Per Cast Sports, the box story. Like I said, this is subjective. Okay? But y'all got to agree with some of them. I ain't wrong on all of them. Devontae Bryant Davis, nicknamed Tank, American boxer, that monster from Baltimore. Okay. He started his career as a Floyd Mayweather protege. He held the WBA, has the WBA lightweight title since 2023. Okay. And what is he? 31-0 with one draw or something like that. I used to know his record. Oh my goodness. Tank is currently 30-0 with one draw, 28 wins by the knockout route. 30-0. That's 90-something too. Knockout ratio is 93.3. He up there with Gary Antoine. 93.3. Okay. I think Gary Antoine and Shakur would be a good fight. I wouldn't mind seeing that one. 130. O'Shaquie Foster. Shaq. Okay, yeah. Al Booker got boots at junior middleweight. Yeah, I'm just waiting for him to get a title, Al Booker. I'll move him in number 1, 2. Once he get a title. Ron Bucenis, yeah. Ain't nobody beating that boy, man. No way. See what Virgil Ortiz did. Everybody been talking Boots and Virgil all year. If they both win, all of a sudden Virgil, oh, my dream fight is Earl Spence. Come on, man. Come on, man. If you're scared, say you're scared. Come on, man. Come on, Virgil. But nobody talk about no Virgil and Earl Spence. I ain't hear nobody talk about no Virgil and Earl Spence. Yo, Shaquie, he's currently WBC super featherweight title. Just had a big win over Cool Boy last week. Shaquie is 24-3, okay? And he has 12 knockouts. Shaquie. Finish up the lower weight classes. Of course, 26 is Rafael Espinosa. Okay? Rafael Espinosa. We got to get to Rocky, so I'm going to speed it up now. Rafael Espinosa, 126. Rafael is Cuban, okay? And he currently has a record of 28-0 with 24 by knockout, okay? I don't know why I got to know these knockout rates, so I can't let a good knockout rate pass by. 85.7, okay? Then we got 122. Naoya Inoue. There I go again. Made my pictures. There's Espinosa at 126. He's at 126, right? Oh, that's not Espinosa. Shaquie. Espinosa. Oh, that's Shaquie again. Yeah. There's Espinosa on the right. 122 was the Master. D.A. Master. The Master. Okay. Japanese boxer. Inoue is undefeated. Yes. He's held multiple world championships across 4 weight classes. He's one of only 3 male boxers to become undisputed in 2 weight classes, along with the 2 females during the 4-belt era. Inoue, Bud Usyk, Clarissa Shields, and KT Taylor. Okay? And the Monster is currently in box break. Oh, here we go. Currently, I should have wrote these down yesterday, but he's 31-0 with 27 knockouts. There we go again. 27 knockouts. 87 on the dot for the Monster. D.A. Monster. 118 Nakatani. Nakatani next fight at 122, but his last fight was at 118, so he's still at 118 until he fight at 122. Juto. Okay, but he is fighting that 122 coming up. Is it this month? I know it's coming up pretty soon. Yeah. He's on the schedule. Nakatani is a Japanese fighter, and Nakatani is 31-0 with 24 knockouts. And his next fight is the 27th. Okay. Not this Saturday, but next Saturday against Sebastian Hernandez. Okay. 31-0 with 24 knockouts. Knockout ratio of 77.4. Yeah, Nakatani fight on the 27th, next Saturday. Okay. Here's Junto. Then we got 115. Y'all know who that is. Bam Rodriguez. There's Bam. Jesse Bam. These are the best fighters in each weight class right now. Jesse Bam Rodriguez. Okay. Oh man, I gotta get Rocky in. This be done in a couple minutes. We got a couple more. Get his record for y'all. Jesse Rodriguez is currently 23-0 with 16 knockouts. 112 flyweight. Ricardo Sandoval. There's Ricardo to the right there. 112. Ricardo Sandoval. I think he's Mexican. Let me see. Let me make sure. Two more after this. Ricardo Sandoval. Okay. He is 27-2 with 18 knockouts. Ricardo is. Okay. He's he's American. Okay. American. Okay. Then we got 108 is Rene Santiago. Rene got a few losses, but yeah, you know. Still a great fighter. You just can't go back because the fighter got a few losses. There's Rene. 108. Junior flyweight. Rene Santiago. Best junior flyweight in the world right now. One more. And Rene is currently, he's Puerto Rican, by the way. Currently, 15-4 with 9 knockouts. So he did a few losses, but still a great fighter. Okay, Rene. Rene just fought wait a minute now. Today is the 17th. How could he fought today? Huh? It says he fought December 17th. Won by split decision. Maybe it was in Japan. That's what it says. His last fight was December 17th, 2025. So he fought earlier today, I guess. Yeah. Wow. And finally at strawweight, we have Oscar Collazo. There's Oscar. Scrappy little guy down there, strawweight. Mm-hmm. Then we're going to talk about Rocky Marciano. Oscar Collazo. Okay. And Oscar is currently his record. Oh, my goodness. 13-0 with 10 knockouts. Okay. Look at them guys down there got popped too. Only 3 people went the distance with Oscar so far. 76.9. Okay, let's talk about Rocky Marciano now. The Rock to finish up for today. He was right. He didn't fight in the golden era. He was in the 50s, but great boxer, Rocky Marciano. Okay. And you know, the knock on Rocky is his competition. And we're gonna go through his resume a little bit to show he fought some good fighters. Okay. I mean, people will say, well, Jersey Joe Walcott was old and all that when Rocky fought him, but Jersey Joe Walcott was old. But guess what else he was when Rocky fought him? He was the heavyweight champion of the damn world. So he wasn't nobody else beating him. How can you say the man was past his prime? He was the heavyweight champion of the world. Come on, people. Come on now. Damn, the man was a heavyweight champion. Meaning he's the best heavyweight in the world. So you cannot say when Rocky fought him, he was done. He was the heavyweight champion. Okay? But Rocky Marciano. Now, Rocky Marciano was an unstoppable force, a true Iron Man of the ring, an undefeated professional fighter. Rocky is one of the greatest champions of all time. But this is not just based on his impressive statistics. Let's take it a step further and look at Rocky in more detail, okay? Now, perhaps the thing Rocky is most noted for was the ability to knock a man flat with one punch. Yeah, one of the classic one-hitter quitters, okay? Rocky Marciano was an extremely hard puncher. And some old timers cling on to the belief that he actually hit harder than huge men such as Sonny Liston, George Foreman, and Ernie Shavers. Now, this is understandable, seeing the way Rocky reduced several 200-pound world-class athletes to quivering wrecks with his crunching fists. Jersey Joe Walcott was the most famous victim of Marciano's dynamic punch, but there were others. Of his three more famous wins, Joe Louis, Rex Lane, and Harry Matthews were also dispatched by one or two savage punches. Now, it wasn't prime Joe Louis, but he was beating everybody else. He was on an 8-fight winning streak. Came out of retirement. Joe Louis was on an 8-fight winning streak when Rocky beat him, and Joe Louis was the #1 contender. So who was he supposed to fight? Okay? If he fought somebody didn't fight Joe Louis, they'd be saying, well, he didn't fight Joe Louis, the #1 contender. So, you know, sometimes you just can't win with people, man. Joe Louis was the #1 contender. Who the hell else was he supposed to fight? Okay? Now, the right hand that knocked out Rex Lane sheared his teeth off at the gums. Rocky even broke Roland LaStarza's arms. LaStarza needed surgery to repair the chips and cracks on his elbows and to repair smashed blood vessels in his arms. Okay? Smashed blood vessels. Wow. Damn. I wouldn't want to get hit by him. I just use a baseball bat on me, man. Don't hit me with your fist. Smashed blood vessels in the man's arms. Woo. Now, Rocky used to train on a custom-made 300-pound heavy bag, about 3 times what most heavyweights punch bags weigh. Rocky had to work harder to move the bag around. This is most probably how he developed so much punching power, right? So much punishing power. But Rocky had always showed a natural ability for punching. The first thing that caught trainer Charlie Goldberg's eye when he first started training Rocky, after Rocky knocked out an audition sparring partner, was his tremendous leverage. Even from the start, Rocky was an extremely hard puncher, and probably a harder puncher back then at the dawn of his career than after 1952, as he got up into his career. It was once claimed during tests in the 1960s that Rocky's right-hand punch contained as much explosive energy as an armor-piercing bullet. Okay? I told you. I'd rather him hit me with a baseball bat. His fists contain as much explosive energy as an armor-piercing bullet. I'd rather he hit by a baseball bat than his fist. Damn. Okay, so Marciano was also terribly strong, especially for his size. Archie Moore claimed Rocky was far and away the strongest man that he's ever encountered. Joe Louis said it hurt to even bump into Rocky. One of Rocky's amateur opponents said he was the hardest, most solid man he'd ever seen. Rocky had all over body strength, and his muscles were compact and solid. His arms and legs were short and stocky, and he was very muscular. He was never wrestled about or put on the back foot by anyone, and always shoved people about in the clinches. Yeah, Rocky always won the clinches, you know. Yeah. There's one thing about Rocky that is quite unquestionable. He had amazing stamina. He would run all year round, keeping himself in shape. He would even run 6 or 7 miles on Christmas morning. Now, when it was leading up to a fight, in the closing days before a fight, he'd up that to 15 miles every morning, okay? That's much more than any other heavyweight did or does now. So no wonder Rocky could fight all night long. He's just as strong in the 15th round as he was in the first. Fought during the 15 round era, right? No wonder. Rocky had a great work rate, often throwing 90 punches per round. And he had some rounds where he'd throw 120 punches. Experienced craftsmen and good boxers such as Roland Lastarza, Ezzard Charles, and Archie Moore simply could not cope with Rocky's onslaught. Archie Moore said, it was like fighting an airplane propeller. And most experts agree that Rocky was the best conditioned heavyweight of all time, before or since. Nobody had conditioning like Rocky. Closest one probably was Joe Frazier, okay? Now, Rocky had an amazing chin. He was only floored twice in his career and was rarely hurt. And the 2 times he was dropped were for a 3 and a 2 count by 2 great punchers. Ring Magazine's #4 all-time great puncher Archie Moore floored Rocky with a perfect right hand as Rocky came in, missing a punch, and had 1 foot off the floor. And Archie's punch landed right on Rocky's chin. The Rocky was up within 2 seconds and back fighting. Now listen to this one. Jersey Joe Walcott, also rated by the Ring as an all-time great puncher, floored Rocky with one of his classic left hooks. But when the referee was sending Jersey Joe to the neutral corner, Jersey Joe got to the corner and turned around, and Rocky was standing right there staring at him. He said, I'm going to get you, SOB. Jersey Joe was shocked. He caught him with one of his best left hooks, and when he got to the corner and turned around, Rocky was already up right behind him. Right? The 6'4", 220-pound Carmine Vengo, a good prospect with a dynamite punch, staggered Rocky a couple times, but he never managed to put him down. It was a great slugfest, and Rocky fought back hard. In the 6th round, Vengo was put into a coma, courtesy of a savage left hook to the jaw. Okay? Rocky's awkwardness was actually one of his strengths. Many found his unorthodox way of fighting very difficult to cope with. Even masters of the game like Joe Louis, Jersey Joe Walcott, Ezzard Charles, and Archie Moore all found it hard to land a clean shot on Rocky. He was just so slippery. With underrated defensive abilities, Rocky would slip the jab and get inside, weaving and ducking, throwing hard punches from all sorts of inconceivable angles. He was a very hard man to fight. Okay, very hard. Perhaps Rocky's greatest attribute was the mental side of it. He had an amazing heart, able to cope with any situation and turn it around, never discouraged. Floored, cut, and beaten up by Walcott over 13 rounds, with his eyes stinging. Rocky fought through round 10 of their first class like a true warrior and ended up winning the title. He was determined to kick your ass. Sometimes one gets the impression Rocky could never be beaten. Some think he was unbeatable, but he never lost. Okay? While perhaps not one of Rocky's strengths, his defense was certainly not bad, as some so-called historians would like to point out. No, Rocky's defense was not bad at all, and it often made for a very difficult fight. He'd come in inch by inch, leaning backwards and slightly to the right, away from right lead, gloves high and chin down, coming in behind the high guard, right? The whole point of this was to make himself a smaller target. Once he got inside, Rocky was a real terror. He would constantly be moving his head up and down, rolling around, side to side, backwards and forwards. And he'd come in with hard punches from all kinds of inconceivable angles, possibly the most hazardous being his left uppercut, which is somehow overlooked. Now, many men, including great craftsmen, commented on how hard Rocky was to nail with a clean shot. If accomplished masters of the game such as Ezra Charles, Jersey Joe Walcott, Archie Moore, Joe Louis, and Roland Lastarza are saying this, we should take their word for it. Rocky was a destroyer. He ruined people. None of his opponents, except for Archie Moore, were ever the same again. He beat them up, rearranged their bone structure, and knocked them out. He was perhaps the most devastating and destructive champion of all time. Yet Rocky has the record for the fighters that retired after fighting. Most fighters that retired after fighting him, I think it was like 13 fighters. Rocky was their last fight. Now, one thing a lot of so-called experts like to use as ammunition to try and downplay Rocky and his achievements is his competition. But the fighters he fought are not to be messed with. Let's look at his competition now. Okay? As many as we can get in. Up-and-coming prospect, Carmine Vengo. 6'4", 220 pounds. Outweighed Rocky by almost 40 pounds. A heavy-hitting slugger who was involved in a Dempsey Firpo type matchup with Rocky, was knocked out in the 6th round and put into a coma, which left him paralyzed on one side of his body and unable to continue his boxing career. Okay? Roland Lastarza, an accomplished mover boxer that was beating anyone and everyone. Rocky beat him twice. The first, a controversial decision. The second left Lastarza in the hospital with a broken arm, several blood clots, and requiring surgery. Yeah, he beat broke some smashed blood vessels in the man's arm, okay? Smashed blood vessels in the man's arm. We're just going through Rocky's resume for those who say he didn't fight anybody and all that nonsense. Veteran contender, Lee Savold, someone who had fought Joe Louis, amongst other big name heavyweights of the time. Savold's management threw in the towel before round 6 ended. Savold, having been bashed so badly, he was unable to throw punches back at Rocky. Okay. Top contender Rex Lane. Lane was a favorite over Marciano before the fight. A heavy punching slugger who reminded people of the great Jack Dempsey. Lane had great success in the ring, including a win over Jersey Joe Walcott. Lane's record going into the Rocky fight was 34 wins, 1 loss, 2 draws with 24 knockouts. Rocky knocked him out in 6 rounds, breaking his jaw and knocking out a tooth. Joe Louis, the great champion who had came out of retirement to help pay his bills. Although considered over the hill by many, Joe Louis was still a very dangerous fighter when he fought Rocky, beating all the other fighters around at the time, and was the #1 contender in the world, looking to have another crack at the heavyweight title after beating Rocky. Rocky knocked Joe out in 8 rounds and ended Joe's career. So when they say he fought over the hill Joe Louis was the #1 contender. So who the hell was he supposed to fight? Like I said, if he didn't fight Joe Louis, people be saying, well, Joe Louis was the #1 contender. He didn't fight him. So come on, man. People just have to stop this nonsense. Perry Matthews was Rocky's last fight before facing Jersey Joe Walcott, and he took him out in style. Another good fighter, Matthews was ranked #5 in the division and had an impressive record of 96 wins, 3 losses, 6 draws before facing Rocky. In this fight, Rocky completely outgunned Matthews, knocking him out brutally in the second round with 2 vicious left hooks. This man was ranked number 5. Who was he supposed to fight? People saying cherry picking and fight nobody. He's fighting the top contenders though. Okay, now Jersey Joe Walcott, listen to this. Jersey Joe Walcott, now this is the famous one they say was over the hill, Jersey Joe, the haters. Jersey Joe Walcott was a 38-year-old veteran who had knocked down Joe Louis 3 times, beaten the highly regarded Ezzard Charles, and was, of course, the heavyweight champion of the world when he fought Rocky. Okay? So how can that be over the hill? You're the heavyweight champion. I don't care if he was 80. He was a heavyweight champion. Walcott was not over the hill. In fact, he was far from it. At 38 years old, he was close to his peak. Okay? You can be at your peak at that age. Look at B-Hop. B-Hop winning championships 49 years old. So at 38, Walcott was actually at his peak when he fought Rocky. He had boxed for many years in obscurity, and after getting the shot at Joe Louis, he finally came alive. He was a dangerous boxer who didn't learn new moves. He invented them. Rocky was being outpointed over 13 rounds, although being blinded for 3 or 4 of them, only to score a devastating and brutal knockout to win the title, round 13. Okay. Ezzard Charles, another dangerous contender, fought Rocky twice and even lasted the distance with him the first time. Charles was a highly regarded heavyweight, an ex-champion who had gotten the better of Joe Louis and Jersey Joe Walcott, and was one of the only light heavyweights in history that made it big in the heavyweight division. Although being outclassed by Charles' skills at first, Rocky swung the fight in his favor and turned the tide in order to win a unanimous decision over Charles in a brutal 15-round fight. In the rematch, Rocky's nose was infamously split open down the middle when Charles hit him with an elbow after missing on an uppercut. Rocky kept on fighting with the injury, seemingly not bothered at all, and he knocked Charles out with an unstoppable barrage of punches in the 8th round. Okay, so then Archie Moore, the old mongoose, and they say Archie was over the hill when he fought Rocky. But guess what? After he fought Rocky, Archie had like 30 more fights and only lost once. Why is that over the hill? After he fought Rocky, 28 other fighters couldn't beat him, 28 or 29. Archie the old mongoose Moore was one of the best light heavyweights ever and was beating all the heavyweights around except Rocky. Archie Moore was a veteran and a great all-round fighter, a craftsman who knew all the tricks of the trade. Although old, like Walcott, he was still very dangerous and considered near his best. Some even think his defensive performance against Rocky was the best in history. Coming back from an early flash knockdown, Rocky came back to batter Moore throughout the 7th, 8th, and 9th rounds, leaving the courageous ancient Archie literally unable to stand up after being counted out. Don Cockell was the British champion the time he fought Rocky, and although thought to be fat and out of shape, he was in superb condition. Cockell had a medical problem which made him slightly chubby. Okay, he was thought not to be much of a problem for Rocky, although he was still a legit contender and the best in Great Britain. Okay, this was the best British heavyweight of all at the time. Rocky knocked him out in 9 rounds, taking a while to wear off some ring rust, suffered through inactivity. It was a brutal fight, and Cockell was being sick in his corner between rounds as a result of the extreme punishment his body was absorbing. The referee halted the fight to prevent any serious injuries, okay? Now, if you have heard this, hopefully you have come to the conclusion that Rocky Marciano didn't have bad competition. Just because fighters are old, it doesn't mean they don't count as great or dangerous. And just because you never heard of a fighter, it doesn't mean they should just be dismissed as bums or nobodies because you haven't heard of them, okay? As a champion, Rocky Marciano deserves to be in the top 5 somewhere. He trained religiously, never gloated over beating opponents, was never cocky, and fought everyone around. Also, outside the ring, he was like a champion, should be, an icon of his age, the era he fought in, icon. He signed autographs, spent time with fans, loved his family, and tried his best to be a decent man. 49-0 is his legacy. The Rock, Rocky Marciano. All right. Appreciate everybody that came through today. That's going to be today's show. Okay. Crush the Legend, Mike Masick, Al Booger, Bruce Gas Boxing, Jazz, and more. Mike Rim, Just Do Boxing, and Miss Cass. And by the way, Just Do Boxing is coming up in like 5 minutes. Okay? And we'll be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. with some more boxing history. Because if it's Monday through Friday at 2 p.m., it's the Box Storia bringing you all of that boxing history. Everybody have a great afternoon. Appreciate y'all 1,000,000%. Thanks for your support.